με τις ευλογίες του Σεβασμιωτάτου Αρχιεπισκόπου Αμερικής κ. Ελπιδοφόρου και του Θεοφιλεστάτου Επισκόπου Μηδίας κ. Αποστόλου, ξεκινούμε τους εορτασμούς για τα 200 χρόνια από την έναρξη της Ελληνικής Επαναστάσεως. Και εμείς εδώ στην ενορία του Αγίου Θωμά εορτάζουμε και συμμετέχουμε με πάρα πολύ χαρά και σας στέλνουμε αυτό το μικρό αφιέρωμα, το οποίο ετοίμασαν με πάρα πολύ αγάπη τα παιδιά του ελληνικού απογευματινού μας σχολείου. Εύχομαι σε όλους χρόνια πολλά, να έχουμε την ευλογία του Θεού, ο Θεός να ευλογεί την Ελλάδα μας και την Αμερική μας, και ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ όλα τα μέλη, τον Πρόεδρο και όλους που απαρτίζουν την Ομοσπονδία Ελληνοαμερικανικών Σωματείων Φιλαδελφίας για το σπουδαίο έργο το οποίο επιτελούν. Εδώ είμαι μαζί με τον Πρόεδρο του Συμβουλίου μας, τον κύριο Τσάρλι Σαντήλο, και βεβαίως ευχαριστώ και την Διευθύντρια του Ελληνικού μας Σχολείου, την κυρία Παναγιώτα Δελημάρη, και όλους τους δασκάλους για αυτή την προετοιμασία για αυτό το αφιέρωμα.
Χρόνια πολλά, the 200th anniversary of Hellenic independence, to the Federation, to all of those who have been putting this together. Thank you.
The Greek War of Independence was a successful war of independence waged by the Greek revolutionaries against the Ottoman Empire between 1821 and 1830. The war led to the formation of modern Greece. The revolution is celebrated by Greeks around the world as Independence Day on March 25th. Greece came under the Ottoman rule in the 15th century and decades before and after the fall of Constantinople. The Greek Revolution of 1821 didn't happen suddenly. Greeks tried from the very early years of the Ottoman rule to reverse it. During the following centuries, there was a sporadic but unsuccessful Greek uprising against Ottoman rule.
The first uprisings were of mixed scale and impact. During the Cretan War from 1645 to 1669, the Manius aided Francesco Morosini and the Venetians in the Peloponnese. Greek irregulars also aided the Venetians in the Ionian Sea and in the Peloponnese. A major uprising during that period was the Orlov Revolt, which took place during the Russia-Turkish War from 1768 to 1774 and triggered armed unrest in both the Greek mainland and the islands. In 1778, a Greek fleet of 70 vessels assembled by Lambros Katsonis, which harassed the Turkish squadrons in the Aegean Sea, captured the island of Castellorizo and engaged the Turkish fleet in naval battles until 1790.
Greek life did not end when the Ottoman Turks took Constantinople in 1453. Greeks had some obvious advantages. The Fener, or lighthouse district of Istanbul, became the center of Ottoman Greek culture after the Patriarch took up residence there, and the well-connected Greeks of that city were known as Phenariates. Orthodox culture, faith, and educational systems became identified with Greek culture. Greeks held administrative roles in the central Ottoman administration itself as well. Greeks ran the office of the dragoman, the head of the Sultan's interpreter's service, because Muslims were discouraged from learning foreign languages. Greeks therefore participated in diplomatic negotiations, and some became de facto ambassadors. That helped a lot later when the seed of revolution planted in Greek minds.
For these leading groups, Ottoman rule was tolerable. Rich ship owners on the island of Idra, prosperous merchants, high officials in the Orthodox Church, powerful Phenariates, prominent in the Peloponnese, and members of the interpreter service all had much to lose and little to gain by political adventures. How then can we explain the movement that led to the revolution in 1821? First, not all Greeks shared in the power and prosperity of collaboration with the Ottomans. Poor peasants, poor village priests, poor sailors, and the like had no such investment in the status quo. Without ideas or leadership, dissatisfaction among such people led to little except banditry by cliques and occasional minor rebellions. By the 1700s, however, there were significant cultural developments at work, many of them coming from abroad.
Greek civilization was never completely separated from the rest of Europe. After the fall of Constantinople, some Greeks fled to Italy and played a role in the Renaissance. There were Greek printing presses at work in Venice in the 1500s, and trading contacts with Spain saw a minimal level of exchange of ideas. Greek traders returning from the West brought knowledge of new manufacturing techniques, like those used to start a soap factory in the 1760s.
New ideas came too. Merchants and entrepreneurs found the economic and political concepts of liberalism and the Enlightenment attractive. Greek wealth also paved the way for new forces in Greek culture. Wealthy Greeks commissioned the printing of books. For students who could not travel to the West to study, schools were founded at home. There was a revival interest in Greek learning and traditions, including a higher appreciation of classic mythology and stories of epic poems about Orthodox martyrs and heroic cliffs.
Among the leaders in this revival was Adamantios Korais. Korais was born in 1748, the son of a merchant in Smyrna on the Anatolian coast. Pursuing his education, he traveled to Paris. He was heavily influenced by French Enlightenment thought and the ideas of Hobbes and Locke, and then by the doctrines of French Revolution, to which he was an eyewitness. He supported the idea of a revolution in Greece. His chief contribution to Greek rebirth was not political but cultural. In order to improve the Greek language and revive memories of Greek glories, he wrote down modern versions of tales from Greek antiquity and translated parts of Herodotus and Homer and composed a Greek language dictionary. Korais died in France in 1833.
Another contrasting but prominent figure in the Greek revival was Rigas Phaedos, who was born in 1757 in Thessaly. He began his career as an interpreter in the ranks of the Phaenario establishment, but left Turkey to further his education. In Western Europe, he too was influenced by the ideas of the French Revolution and of Romanticism. He was an active participant in secret societies and lodges, and he wrote revolutionary tracts addressed to his fellow Greeks. Around 1793, Rigas went to Vienna, the capital of Holy Roman Empire and home to a large Greek community, as part of an effort to ask the French General Napoleon Bonaparte for assistance and support. While in the city, he edited a Greek-language newspaper, Ephemeris, and published a proposed political map of Great Greece, which included Constantinople and many other places, including a large number of places where Greeks were a minority.
He printed pamphlets based on the principles of the French Revolution, including Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a new political constitution of the inhabitants of Remile, Asia Minor, the islands of the Aegean, and the principalities of Moldavia and Wallachia. These he intended to distribute in an effort to stimulate a pan-Balkan uprising against the Ottomans. In 1798, he was arrested by the Austrian police while on his way back to Turkey as part of a conspiracy. Turned over to the Ottoman authorities, he was executed. Rigas Phaedos is considered by many as a martyr.
The original instigators of the Greek uprising were members of a secret society called the Philiki Daria, or Friendly Society. It was founded in 1814 in the Russian port of Odessa. Like other lodges that were fraternal groups or self-help associations made up of merchants, the society copied the Freemasons in its elaborate rituals, ranks, and secrecy, but its purpose was revolt. The three founders of Philiki Daria are Nikolaos Koufas, Athanasios Sakharov, and Emmanuel Xanthos.
One was the son of a Greek fur dealer living in Moscow, who already had been a member of a Greek society while living in Paris.
The second was a Greek merchant of Edessa and a veteran of an anti-Turkish secret lodge. The third was a merchant from the Ionian Islands who had contacts in the National Guard created by the British occupation government. In their merchant associations and their connections to the outside world, these three were typical of the members who put together the plot.
From 1819 records of the largest Odessa branch, we know the occupations of 348 of the 452 members. 153 identified themselves as merchants and shippers, 60 as notables, 36 as soldiers, 24 as priests, 23 as minor officers, 22 as teachers or students, 10 as doctors, 4 as lawyers, and 16 as men with other professions. With the possible exception of the notables and professional men, most members were not wealthy or influential.
The idea of revolution was also attractive to some of the powerful. In the last months of preparation, Veliki Eteria sacrificed secrecy in favor of seeking extensive membership and sent representatives into Ottoman territory to recruit. A number of important kleftis and district notables enrolled who could be counted on to escort whole villages or bands of armed men. Some of these men dropped their reservations because of the promise of Russian aid. This was plausible because of the participation of two prominent Greeks who were in Russian service. One was Count John Kapodistrias, the Tsar's foreign minister. He was born on Corfu in 1776. After some time studying in Italy, he returned to Corfu and played a role in the administration of the island, rising to become Secretary of State. When the island was transferred to French control, he left and used old contacts to the Balkans to get a post in the Russian Foreign Service. His excellent reports on the Balkans brought him to the Tsar's attention, and he attended the Congress of Vienna in 1815. While he favored a Greek uprising and was in close contact with the plotters, he shrank from the actual event and from leadership. When fighting broke out, the suspicious Tsar fired him.
Another Greek with Russian ties was Alexander Ypsilantis. Born in Constantinople in 1792, he had grown up in Russia in exile with his father. He had attended the military cadet school and served with distinction in the Tsar's army, rising to the position of aide-de-camp to the Tsar. More willing to risk a crisis, he had less actual influence than Kapodistrias. In 1820, on the refusal of Count Ioannis Kapodistrias, the Russian foreign minister, to accept the post of leader of the Veliki Eteria, the post was offered to Ypsilantis, who was then elected as the leader of the secret society. Following that, he processed and approved the general plan of the Greek War of Independence with the participation of rebel captains from the mainland Greece.
The date for the uprising was first set for 1820, then pushed back to the spring of 1821. The revolution was declared on March 25, 1821, by Metropolitan Yomanos of Vadras, who raised the banner with the cross in the monastery of Agia Lavra. Because of the Greek origin of so much of the West's classical heritage, there was tremendous sympathy for the Greek cause throughout Europe and America. Some wealthy Americans and Western European aristocrats, such as the renowned poet Lord Byron and later the American physician Samuel Howe, took up arms to join the Greek revolutionaries. Greeks of diaspora raised funds before and after the beginning of the revolution to support its success. Today, 200 years later, we honor our ancestors for the freedom they gave us all, and we are proud to call ourselves Hellenists.
They will never be forgotten. Ziziko Yelaga!